And I too rise to speak in favour of this motion. And one of the things that we lack in this chamber are the use of measurements, in particular numbers. And when it comes to the lower lakes, I think we need to look at some facts and figures to put things into context. And I'd like to thank the stakeholders that gave me these numbers last week, because when you hear these figures, you'll actually understand how unproductive and insane the Murray-Darling Basin plan is. The size of the lower lakes, the surface area of the lower lakes is 200,000 acres. Okay, that is a massive property. I come from a large property in Western Queensland of about 150,000 acres, and I know how big that is. So to think this is the size of the surface area of those lower lakes, it holds 1,924 gigalitres, and approximately half of it evaporates every year. So we are losing about 865 gigalitres every year in those lower lakes to evaporation. But here's the thing. There's only 166 licence holders in that lower basin, the lower part of the St Murray River in southern South Australia, not northern South Australia near Renmark, and they only use 21 gigalitres. So we let 865 gigalitres go to the lower lakes and evaporate every year so that a small number of farmers can use 21 gigalitres. Now, that is completely insane. Okay, if you really want to fix this problem and get to keep more water in the upper Murray and the upper Darling, then you're much better off building a lock at the top of the lake, a much deeper lock that can hold quite a bit of water with a much smaller surface area, and then that can be used for irrigation. And you keep the fresh water apart from the salt water and you get rid of those lower barrages. Now, the other thing that I found out last week from these stakeholders from the around the Goulburn area is that there is now, because of these so-called environmental flows, there is flooding in certain parts of the river 7 or 8 every 10 years. Now, normally you would get flooding, as we all know in Australia, every couple of times a decade. We are now getting constant flooding almost every year, and of course that is destroying some of the surface area and the gum trees in the Murray-Darling Basin. So, you know, all for the idea of environmental flows, but you don't want these actual environmental flows to actually be destroying the environment. And there seems to be a bit of deja vu here with the climate change thing, whereby everyone said, well, we need to get away from coal-powered fire stations, so let's build renewables, and renewables are destroying the environment. It looks like we are finding out now that these so-called environmental flows that come down the river just about every year, when they don't normally come down the river every year, is actually destroying part of the Murray-Goulburn. So we need to have a much closer look at this, and I do support the motion. It's a very good idea because we do not want our farmers going broke, closing down, and these stakeholders I spoke to last week were indeed dairy farmers and other farmers on the basin that were actually had lost their livelihoods.
Authorised G. Rennick, LNP Chermside.